China's air defense network around Taiwan is the most dangerous stretch of airspace on Earth. The US military has one jet it believes can crack it. Just one. The question is whether it's still good enough given what China built specifically to kill it. That's not a rhetorical setup. That's the actual strategic problem the US military is sitting with right now. China's researchers claimed in late 2024 that their ground-based radar systems can detect the 35 from 180 kilometers away. If that number holds under real combat conditions, the entire US plan for a Taiwan conflict has a problem at its center, and yet the Pentagon keeps buying F-35s, keeps moving them closer to China, and keeps building the Taiwan response around this one platform. There's a specific reason the F-35 holds that position, and it's not the one most people assume. It has nothing to do with being invisible. It is something we'll get to that in this video. You'll understand why the F-35 isn't just another advanced fighter in this scenario. It's a decision made decades ago that now determines whether the US can respond to a Taiwan conflict at all. And what happens if that decision was wrong? China started building what military planners call an anti-access area denial network after 1995. That year, the US Navy sent 2 carrier battle groups through the Taiwan Strait in response to Chinese missile tests. The PLA, People's Liberation Army, could do nothing about it. Beijing watched 2 American carrier groups operate freely in water it considered its own, and it spent the next 30 years making sure that never happened again. The network they built is layered. It runs from land-based ballistic missiles like the DF-21D, the so-called carrier killer, out to surface to air missile systems, radar arrays, fighter patrols, electronic warfare platforms, and cyber capabilities. The National Interest described it in a December 2025 analysis as arguably the most challenging operational environment US forces have encountered since the end of World War II. The goal isn't to shoot down every American jet. The goal is to make the cost of intervention high enough that Washington flinches before it commits. That matters because in a Taiwan scenario, timing is everything. The PLA doesn't need to hold off US forces forever. It needs to hold them off long enough to establish facts on the ground, or in the strait. Gu to own Isle Asparfiles. So what does the US send into that environment? Not the F-22 Raptor. The F-22 is the US military's pure air superiority fighter. It's faster, it arguably has a lower radar cross-section than the F-35, and in a straight on one fight it's still the most capable air dominance platform the US operates. But the F-22 production line closed at 187 aircraft. It lacks the data-sharing architecture the modern battlefield requires. The Air Force has acknowledged for years that the F-22 fleet is too small and too expensive to sustain for a major Indo-Pacific conflict. In a Taiwan scenario, the F-22 plays a role, but it can't carry that scenario alone, not the B-21 Raider either. The B-21 is a bomber designed to penetrate the most heavily defended airspace in the world and strike fixed targets deep inside it. It will matter enormously in any serious Taiwan conflict. But the B-21 fleet hasn't reached operational strength yet, and its mission is strikes, not the kind of persistent, networked air superiority the F-35 provides. So the burden falls to the F-35. F-35 comes in 3 variants. The F-35A is the conventional takeoff Air Force version. The F-35B does short takeoff and vertical landing, the Marine Corps variant that can operate from amphibious ships like the America class. The F-35C is the Navy's carrier-based version built for catapult launches and arrested landings from aircraft carriers. Each variant costs differently. The F-35A runs roughly $80 million per unit in recent production. The F-35B is closer to $108 million. The F-35C around $94 million. These are flyaway costs. Total lifecycle cost per aircraft, including maintenance, is far higher. A figure the Government Accountability Office and the Congressional Budget Office have consistently flagged as one of the program's structural problems. The U.S. has already stationed F-35Bs at Marine Corps Air Station Iwakuni in Japan. F-35Cs deploy on carrier strikes in the Pacific. As of early 2026, 48 new F-35s are headed to Misawa Air Base in Japan, positioned specifically to shorten response time and reduce the need for vulnerable aerial refueling tankers in a conflict scenario. National Security Journal noted in February 2026 that F-35s operating from Japanese coastal bases can hit targets 1,300 miles away, which puts much of China's eastern coast in range without the jet ever crossing into the most dangerous threat zones. That positioning matters because the 35's real value in a Taiwan conflict isn't about raw stealth. Here's what most coverage misses. The F-35 is a flying sensor network. It doesn't just see the battlefield, it fuses data from its own radar, its electronic intelligence systems, data links from satellites, other aircraft, and ground stations, and then pushes that picture out to every platform connected to the network in real time. The US military calls this Joint All-Domain Command and Control, JADC2. The F-35 functions as the quarterback of that system. It can detect a Chinese surface to air missile battery, classify the threat, and relay targeting data to a Navy destroyer 200 miles away, all without ever using its own weapons. That capability exists on no other platform in the US inventory in this form, at this scale, in this production volume. 1945 described it in late 2025 as much quarterback as dogfighter. That framing is accurate. In a Taiwan conflict, the F-35 doesn't need to personally kill everything it finds. It needs to see it, classify it, and route the kill to the cheapest or most effective platform available. That's the architecture. That's why the F-35 holds a position no other jet holds. China's JY-27V radar is a VF band system specifically designed to detect low observable aircraft. VF radars operate at longer wavelengths than the high-frequency radar stealth geometry is optimized against. The F-35's shaping was engineered primarily to defeat X-band fire control radars, the ones that actually guide missiles to their targets. Against VF systems like the JY-7V, the F-35's radar cross-section is larger. China has deployed similar systems at multiple defense exhibitions and has been integrating them into its layered network. The PLS simulation presented at the 36th China Simulation Conference in October 2024, reported by the South China Morning Post, claimed detection ranges of 180 kilometers against stealth fighters including the F-35 and F-22. If a radar system detects the F-35 at 180 kilometers, that gives a Chinese surface-to-air missile system time to begin a targeting solution. The problem is detection alone doesn't kill an aircraft. The radar has to hand off a precise track to a fire control system, which has to achieve missile lock, which has to guide a weapon to an aircraft that's simultaneously maneuvering, jamming, and potentially deploying countermeasures. Each step of that chain is a failure point. US stealth doctrine has never claimed invisibility, it claims complication. The goal is to force the enemy to spend more time, more missiles, and more coordination on each aircraft, degrading the efficiency of the kill chain enough that the mission gets through. Against a fully integrated Chinese network, that margin is tighter than it was in 2010. That's a real constraint. The F-35 also has a range problem in the Pacific. Its combat radius of roughly 60-70 miles means that without aerial refueling, many high-value targets in a Taiwan scenario require tanker support. Tankers, aircraft like the KC-135 and KC-46 are large, slow, non-stealthy, and extremely vulnerable. Congressional representatives wrote to the Navy and Air Force in May 2024 flagging this vulnerability directly. If China targets tanker aircraft in the opening hours of a conflict, it compresses the F-30 effective reach significantly. China's own stealth development adds pressure. The J-20, China's heavy air superiority fighter, now fields WS-15 engines and upgraded avionics. China estimated 300 J-20s as of 2025. The J-35, a lighter multi-role stealth fighter, entered PL Air Force service in October 2025. China has roughly 57 J-30s operational now, with mass production in a new facility in Shenyang projected to scale up through 2026. The J-35s and F-35s equal by most analyst assessments. 1945 noted in February 2026 that its sensor fusion, software architecture, and coalition networking lag behind the American platform, but it changes the calculus of who owns the contested airspace. In January 2026, Asia Times reported that Taiwan's Air Force faces a significant qualitative and numerical disadvantage against China's combined J-20 and J-35 fleets. Taiwan currently operates roughly 200 upgraded F-16Vs. Taiwan has expressed interest in purchasing 60 F-35s as part of a proposed $15 billion arms package reported by the Financial Times, a package that also included 400 Patriot missiles and 4 E-2D Hawkeye early warning aircraft. The U.S. has not approved F-35 sales to Taiwan, partly over technology security concerns and partly because U.S. planners believe Taiwan's asymmetric capabilities, coastal defense missiles, drone swarms, hardened infrastructure, matter more than symmetric air power in the first days of an invasion. This comes down to is a 20-year strategic bet. The U.S. military chose the F-35 as the connective tissue of its future combat network. Every allied nation in the Indo-Pacific that operates F-35s, Japan, Australia, South Korea, plugs into that same network. When a Japanese F-35 sees a Chinese radar emission, that data moves to American platforms, to Australian ships, to ground stations across the First Island chain. That's not a single fighter jet. That's an architecture. China's J-35 is designed for regional dominance inside China's own defensive umbrella. The F-35 is designed to function as the nerve system of a coalition that operates across the entire Pacific. The F-35 has real limits in a Taiwan scenario. China built real tools to exploit those limits. The detection problem is real. The range problem is real. The tanker vulnerability is real. None of that disappears because the jet is advanced. But no other platform in the US inventory does what the F-35 does in that network role, at that production scale, from that geographic position, with that level of allied integration. The B-21 can strike. The F-22 can dominate. Submarines can sink ships. None of them see the entire battlefield in real time and push that picture to every platform in the fight simultaneously. China didn't spend 30 years building the world's most complex air defense network to stop a bomber. It built it to stop a system, and the F-35 is the center of that system. If China finds a way to break the F-35's ability to see, fuse, and share, the rest of the network doesn't follow orders. It goes blind. That's not a weakness in a jet. That's a vulnerability in a doctrine. And that's the problem that no upgrade to the F-35 fully solves.